Hi, Tony Selza here. Welcome to the Experience Economy. I've got a great guest on that's an expert on security, blockchain development, and all the places that's going to take and change the way we experience the economy in general, let alone technology and how that interacts with that.
Mm.
McKeon,
Well, that's the Irish version.
Irish version, McKeon, American version,
Yeah.
has really a couple of decades of experience, if not 3 decades of experience, really looking at how technology is transforming the way we experience the world. And so he's got two companies out now, one called MacNerd, one called MacGyverTech, two totally different missions and what they're trying to accomplish, but really wrapped around how do we deliver greater value, not only to the general customers at large, but also to this mid-market that is being targeted by bad actors, right? Because they have more money than they have technical really representation to protect themselves from the one of the largest full-time paying jobs in technology right now, which is hacking, right? And I think this is one of the values that have changed over the last 10 years that are moving to now. Mac, I'd love your response to that. What have you seen change in tech since you've been in, specifically when it comes down to the how security is being viewed and needs to be managed through the companies that are ingesting technology services?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for having me here. It's a pleasure as well. Just a little background for the crew here. I know you said it close to 30 years. Well, it's actually 25 years I've been in IT and software. And, most of that, I was doing R&D and prototyping, and I'm also an ethical hacker. So, I totally get this. And when I started ethical hacking, the tools and the sophistication of the security was like a padlock. Now we're talking Fort Knox.
Right.
And it's in 10 years, it's gone from that being such a, hey, maybe we could screw it with a couple passwords and stuff to now MFA this, and this on top of that. And it's literally layers of security that you need to protect yourself. It's an amazingly crazy world, especially since now there's escalation between countries and nation states. And there's a lot of button heads between some of those. And I don't want to name names, but they're basically causing a lot of problems for our infrastructure. And, as our company, MacGyverTech, and also MacNerd, which you mentioned, which is our blockchain brand, I'll focus on MacGyverTech. We're part of the FBI InfoGuard, which is an organization that we work directly with law enforcement, and we help strengthen American infrastructure. And I can tell you from that side, we're seeing a ton of security stuff or mishaps in security where companies are really just kind of, you know what, when it happens, but it's not if, it's when. It really is in today's age. There's such most IT people, most even regular software developers are ill prepared to defend against a cybersecurity professional, which is a completely different skill set compared to a developer. IT guys think they can do it, but boy, it's really gotten sophisticated. What I mean by that is it's no longer some kid in the basement that's hacking away and trying to get into the bank. This is 1,000 developers in China working together to compromise a target together. They're extremely sophisticated. They're extremely detail oriented, and they're fast, and they have a team. So, I mean, how can one person or a small company really defend against something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, you got like a juggernaut against, David and Goliath kind of here.
Matt,
So,
one of my favorite analogies that I always use is if you've ever had a birdhouse, right? And you put bird feed in that birdhouse. If a squirrel wants to get bird feed out of your birdhouse, a
he's
squirrel
going
is going to get it.
to do
Right?
it.
It is just a matter of time. It's a matter of energy. They want it more than we can want to protect it. I don't care how good you. I mean, I bought, probably 50, 60 different protection mechanisms to keep squirrels out of my birdhouses, and yet the squirrels always get it.
They do.
And so that whole time, money, energy that people are willing to spend has changed dynamically, and the tools and the rewards are higher. Like I remember one of the first things that I just couldn't believe I was doing, at least 3 months into becoming a chief revenue officer for a managed services company, was negotiating Bitcoin with a Russian law firm, right, to get back one of our clients'
What a
data.
unique experience that is, right?
Right.
I've been through that. I know what you're dealing with, and boy, that's not you don't think about it until it happens to you.
You wonder who got connected, the even the email, the back and forth on how you're actually going to have a web call like this and negotiate a deal, and then how you move the money, and then like the fact that they said that they gave us a signed agreement that said they wouldn't hack us for two more years, right? I
That
mean,
doesn't mean anything. I mean, I'm telling you, they don't. I mean, you're dealing with criminals here. I mean, they're going to say and do whatever they want.
yes.
I mean, you got to keep that in mind, and it's amazing, like to see, like negotiating of something like that through. I've dealt with ransomwares ourselves, and
Yep.
they're, it's amazingly sophisticated software as a service now.
But here you have a regional hospital that you would never think is a global actor that is all of a sudden being engaged by a global actor
Mhm.
because they're a soft target, because they don't have the protection they need,
A
because they
lot,
have never even thought about this. And really, it's technology debt in a whole different way that we've ever thought about, right?
right?
So that's what is changing in this market. Like you're just because you don't know that you're at risk doesn't mean you're not at risk. And that lack of knowledge is no longer an excuse. And that's why organizations like you guys have really kind of seen success because you're helping create protection
Mhm.
from really problems that a lot of clients didn't even know they had. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think say that's a really good thing, and I tell you, we're getting tapped on the shoulder a lot now is by insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening now is like, even like to give you an example, 3 years ago, we got cyber insurance for our company, cost $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty good at the time. Now, minimum policies are 5 and 25 million.
Yep.
They gone up, and also they're going to deny you if you haven't done the most basic stuff. If you don't have MFA on all
Yep.
your stuff, you're getting
Well,
denied. If you don't have a pen test ran against your infrastructure, you're going to be denied, or they're going to jack your rates. Like it's amazingly like it's shifting in the market where they're just not going to cover you anymore.
yeah. Well, I think this is what's awesome about MacGyverTech and MacNerd and some of the businesses that are emerging to serve and solve some of these problems, like yourself. It's like, look, you no longer can protect your business if we have a $50 million pool company, we have a $150 million HVAC company. Ponytail Paul by himself in the server room that
He has
is
no idea.
right. He cannot protect an organization that's worth tens, fifteens, hundreds of millions of dollars anymore just because you trusted him for the first 2 decades of when the internet became prevalent.
Right.
That has to change. Your strategy has to change. You need an army to fight a war, right? And I think that's one of the mindsets we're trying to get our clients to understand is when if you're one of those hackers across shores, the easiest ones to go after are the ones that have the most amount of money and the least amount of sophistication. And
Yep.
that's where companies like you guys can come in to start to combat and create layers of protection for these organizations. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit different way of thinking about it too is like actually we're primarily a security conscious software development company. We have one foot in the security space, one foot in the development space. Gives us a unique perspective. Most development companies will kind of stick to development, and security is usually an afterthought. It's not with us. It's baked in who we are. So we've identified like the hackers are kind of coming at you all the time, and we get hired to do a pen test and do them all regularly and say, hey, here's your problem. But that's really just a snapshot in time. So we've identified instead of us kind of doing that, we're doing a new program called PVA, or Persistent Vulnerability Assessment. We're
Mhm.
coming at you all the time, just like the bad guys are, and it's like switching the paradigm of just giving you a snapshot in time, and your window's 365 days for that next test, possibly.
Mhm.
The biggest window might be a few days with us. And that closes the gap exponentially for any problems that could happen. And you can imagine what can happen over a year with infrastructure.
Mhm.
This is constantly just ticking the kind of put it in the same way the bad guys are always coming at you. Why don't we just always come at you and kind of almost like do a drip campaign?
Right.
We're
Right.
always coming at you with small little pieces and figuring out that, and it's always improving it. It's like a little bit of a Darwinism. It's like take small chunks of the apple instead of one big bite.
Yeah.
You're going to be more accomplishable, getting a better security landscape of protecting your environment.
Yeah. So there's some components for the type of clients that you and I deal with. Like you and I have this very similar target, Inc. 5000, right? We're going for these companies that are trying to scale and grow.
Mm-hmm.
They're using technology as a leverage, right? As a tool to deliver greater value to their clients. but there's some significant things that they picked up along the way. I mean, I mentioned Ponytail Paul, but then you've got also the citizen developer, right? The internal guy who built the code, who was their genius, maybe a 10x dev, but that's all they have. That's all the protection they have. All the IP is under that human. Between that and
There's a
Ponytail,
lot of risk in that kind of, even just understanding.
exactly my point, right? So organizations like you are helping these organizations realize technology debt that has been accrued for almost 2 decades. In my mind, this is what I'm seeing, because a lot of these
100%.
companies, they started as a hometown hero, $2 to $3, $5 million in revenue, and all of a sudden they learn how to scale. They buy in another office, maybe they got bought by a private equity firm, and then they start to plant more and more offices. We had a client that was $150 million, literally had all the data of their customers. They're a media company for the last 50 years in a server that they didn't know that was out of warranty, and didn't know whether or not it plugged in when they moved it from Champaign to Chicago.
My.
And that's a lot of what we see in this technology. But
Right.
My point here is I want you to reflect back to this. Security in not only the products that you build that are your own stack, that are your own integrations, that's your own custom software that make your secret sauce, but even the way you manage that. This is in a technology debt space that we've never even seen before. Like, most of the clients that we're talking to can't even quantify this in their mind, because they don't even know how to manage.
They don't understand. They can't even fathom how exponentially this space has grown. And not to throw a wrinkle, just to kind of let everybody know where it's going. Imagine sprinkling a little AI that's countering your moves as you're protecting your environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming. Yeah. AI ran automation, so it sees your moves, it counters them instantly, and it will counter your moves. Like, imagine fighting something like that. That's common. Like, there's the tools already there, and already the intelligence with GPT-3 and GPT-4 coming out now. And that's something, it's a really big, movement, I say, for productivity and automation. Yep. This is only going to make this area even that much more. You're going to have to pay attention to it, because and I think you have your defenses up.
One of the things that you said that I think is so important for our followers to really understand is, like, just because you have cyber insurance does not mean you're protected.
Absolutely not. They'll deny you, most likely than not.
Right. Well,
they won't even pay your claim. And right. They're doing that. I'd say about 50% of the claims I see right now are being cut. They won't even pay them because they don't have the money. Two of the major brokers that are in it are leaving the cyber insurance space too, that most people don't have. So what does that mean? And I'm not going to name names. These are two of the largest carriers. They're losing their shirt in the cybersecurity space. So they're getting out of that business. So what that's going to leave is only a couple small players. Yep. What's going to jack the rates even more.
Yeah. So let me re-say what you're saying. So a lot of people don't understand that this is going on in the industry. The carriers have no algorithms to really understand how to protect from the coverage, because the bad actors have got so good so fast that everything that they calculated before from an actuary standpoint doesn't make sense now. So now you literally have people that have been paying for these insurance policies that didn't have MFA in place. They didn't have all these policies in place. And all they need to do is find one piece of evidence that said those things were going when they go to make a claim. Yep. And so if you don't have proof of work, or you don't have proof of of all this information that you actually implemented these things that were in your policy,
they'll deny you.
You're not getting that claim met, and these are putting businesses out of business.
Out of business, absolutely, yeah. Right. Like, these aren't just like, hey, we're going to take a hit this quarter. We're closing the doors. That's what I don't think people understand. If you get hit by a ransomware, like, I've dealt with personally a ransomware. I don't want to name the name of the company. I was asked to come in. It was another business owner to say, hey, we got hit with ransomware. Could you come in? They were inoperable for a week. People were calling them, say, hey, are you still in business?
Yeah.
Like, literally, imagine you being a business owner and getting that call. That's like the last thing you ever want to hear. Right. And it's amazingly, it's like, doesn't like cost you money. It closes your business.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So let me shift gears, because we've been talking a little bit of gloom and doom.
Yeah, let's get to the positive side of a little sunny here.
So volatility creates unique opportunity, right? So knowing that it's that volatile. So how do how do we advise businesses that are watching this, that are following this, or how do we advise them to make, some of these things not only not just a gap in what they need to do and deliver, but how do they make it an unfair competitive advantage in how they go to market and how they serve their customers?
I mean, first they just got to take a close look at see where they are. I mean, if you haven't, looked at your cybersecurity policy in 1 year, it's
Mhm.
time to relook at it and have somebody that really knows what they're doing there, and
Mhm.
make sure that one, all the things that they have checked off for them to cover you, you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you have any one of those that you have, like say you have 50 apps in your company, 49 of them have a MFA and one of them doesn't. Sorry, they deny you. Like literally, it's that simple,
Yep.
and you have to kind of like understand what they're saying because that, like I said, 9 times out of 10, they're denying claims because they can't pay out as much as coming in, and they're losing their money, and they're doing everything to stay in business themselves.
Yep.
So it's becoming a huge problem because now you got the insurance company really being stressed. You got the companies that are being in the IT side are being stressed. Both systems are pushing to the brink of like, something's going to break.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's that. I think there's a ton of opportunity, like businesses like mine, like yours, that do services for other businesses, like custom software development, digital marketing, UI, UX, whatever. Like when we're engaged with a client, coming up with and showing and leading with how our security policies, protocols, and risk management is one of the unfair advantages that we have against our, with our competition. It's, in the digital marketing space, you wouldn't think about that, but now, knowing that we're in an environment that, that's 100% in the cloud, that's protected with, TPA, that's got multiple different factors in there, and that we're just by using certain software, like we use Money.com, and I don't know if they're on the good end or the bad end, on the security side.
Yeah,
But
I mean, actually, right. You'll be using something that somebody else set up, and you're using it, and that's insecure. Now you're vulnerable in some senses. That's
Mhm.
another way of looking at it. I guess the best way to think about it is, this is baked into our culture here. You got to have a security focused mindset.
Mhm.
Security is not something you just slap a sticker on and say, "Hey, we're good." It's like you got to think about that, and most developers and most IT professionals aren't so security focused mindset. They're just like, get it done because security always goes counter to easy use, so it gets in their way,
Mhm.
slows them down. They don't like it, so they a lot of times brush that off and try to duct tape it on the back end. That's
Mhm.
a bad idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a different way of thinking about it. He's got to bake in, and most of the problems are the people. They're
Yeah.
not the technology. All you need to do is social engineer one new employee, get access to a system, username and password, and
Well,
then
well,
they can do what they
we're,
want.
this is the point we're at, just as an organization. I spoke at a Christian leadership conference last week, and this was the overall mindset with all these, because these guys are dealing with very large donors. One organization we met with alone raised $2.7 billion for churches, right? So
Oh wow!
but the difference is, and here's what I'm seeing: it's like HR and security, especially when it comes to infotech, are going to become more and more. Like if somebody failed, sexual harassment, and had two complaints against them, you would fire them, right? Two times.
Absolutely
But when the CEO, writes his name, the password on his phone because he can't remember it,
right.
I
You're
mean,
like,
that,
is he in trouble?
those two things are becoming the same thing, right? You can't put the entire business at jeopardy just because you don't want to change your process. And I think
Right.
that's really what I see happening. One of the big things I see happening is HR and security being fused into one thing. It is a people problem. It is
It
it is a
is.
policy. It is a continuity thing that has to evolve from, just like you would evolve on how you got to learn how to use this digital environment to collaborate. We've got to evolve to learn how to use, security measures, both personal, both, from a people standpoint, from a technology standpoint, from a process standpoint, to make that organization more secure, because you're putting that organization at risk when you don't follow those processes.
100%. I see it more as risk tolerance and risk aversion is basically what this really is. I mean, really, you're going to make your insurance company happy by doing these things. Either, I mean, we would love to help with this, and I know Tony could help in this area too. just make sure you consult somebody that really understands security. Don't just listen to your Tony your guy that's in the server room that's been watching your servers.
Can you tell Paul?
Yeah, Tony Talpaw. Sorry, I couldn't remember. I know it was something funny, and I just wanted to bring it in. My mom didn't serve me well there. But I'm just saying, like, having somebody that's really technical but not a security professional,
Yeah.
is a mistake. I mean, they're going to think they kind of know because most of those guys are really smart and they're like, oh, I can get this, I can do it, and no fault to them. But this is becoming its own industry. Like, you had IT initially could do software development. Now that's kind of spun off in its own industry. And that's where I'm coming from. I came from that world.
Yeah.
And now it seems like software and IT and security is spinning off from those. Initially, a couple years ago, you had antivirus, Norton, and a couple malware things, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, has it changed.
Yeah, Matt, I think the thing that I've learned from you and just working with you over the last couple months is, this whole space, it's just kind of like healthcare, right? You have to, if you're, you have to become involved in your own care. You have to understand your plan of care. You have to understand, like, I have a buddy that's recently had a heart attack, and, he's online, he's doing information. You have to be a active role in your own care. And I think that's where what we have to do is in the C-suite with our executives. And you have to educate yourself. You have to learn what tech is. You have to learn what your gaps are. You have to constantly bring your team up to that. You can't outsource it and forget it. It's just like your health. It's the overall protection of your business and the future value of that asset. And that's really that. Guys like me don't like to hear that, right? Because I've never been a technical guy.
Right.
Give that to a guy like Mac and trust a guy like Mac. And I think now my mindset is understand what the hell Mac is saying so I can at least have a conversation with him 50, 60% of the time. Make sure he's bringing me up to speed, and they go, okay, what does that acronym mean? What is that? Tell me what am I doing? What's my risk? Help me walk through this. And that's where a lot of C-suite has divorced themselves out of the technology kind of conversation. I think guys like you are the ones that are educating the market, bringing them up to speed. Go ahead, react to that.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time, unfortunately, I guess I'm so nerdy. I had to learn how to nerf my responses, but I spent, 10 years doing that. And really, I can understand what a C-level, especially a CEO wants. And especially, I'm a CTO and a CEO in one. So I understand what a CEO wants. I understand what a CTO wants. And boy, they're completely different things. Yeah. And, I had to understand how to kind of, talk real technical to the CTO and understand, oh, okay, I get it. And why are you doing these? But really, the CEO just cares about how much it costs and what's my risk against that. I had to kind of help them understand. Really, the best way to think about it is like, you got to protect yourself. And even in that PVA thing is we kind of broke it down into protection, kind of a mindset. We have packages that are like a barracks, and we have an outpost and we have a castle. And each one has a different level of protection. And think of it that as way of thinking about how are you just going to put a simple Band-Aid on your defenses where anybody's going to rip it off or into your systems? Or are you actually going to take some real effort to put this in there? Because besides this, all the insurance carriers denying you, the government, our United States government, is coming up with a CMMC, which is a cybersecurity readiness model, which is the framework for us to protect ourselves from the bad guys as a country.
Yeah.
Not just for like, hey, Bob, the ponytail guy is basically putting a couple of antiviruses on a server. This is like 200-point thing that companies got to adhere to, especially if you're in DoD. In 6 months, you won't be doing business.
And you guys are building a product to help with that. There's all kinds of new
absolutely. We're building stuff to help really just give eyes and ears in a more simplified and persistent way to give you what's going on here. Like I said, we're like a dev shop that's security conscious.
I'm gonna round you out with one last question, and this is stuff I'm throwing to my executives. We help try to drive clients' exit velocity, right, on how they're going to grow their business and see a better return. And one of the things that the conversations I'm having with my C-suites all the time is like, the C-suite is a lot bigger than it used to be. You now have a chief information security officer, a CISO. You have a chief data officer, or you should. You have a chief innovation officer, or if you don't, you should. You might have a CTO. And
You got a CMO too. I mean, the
that
C's are getting up
CMO,
there.
and those overlap, right? CIO and
Right.
CMO overlap. And it is no longer okay for you not to understand what those roles are and do. You know what the VP of sales, how to measure the VP of sales. It's called top line revenue. But if you can't measure what a CDO does, a CIO,
Or
a
a CISO, how are you going to know how secure you are? It's not. It's more of
right.
a.
This
You
is
just
my
got to
point.
have it set up.
You cannot no longer not educate yourself in the KPIs of what these people do. And because if you educate yourself in the KPIs, then you can grade whether or not they're doing a good job. And I think that's part of the challenge we have today is like we cannot govern and manage risk the way we used to because of this world of bad actors that have access to us because of these things that we use every day, right? And that's no longer the case. I think the last Bank of America broke through an HVAC system that was a headless IoT connected device, right?
Yeah.
What? Are you kidding me? Right? This is what we're up against. And so guys like you, guys, like your companies are building these solutions in order to create and protect, these growth organizations from risks that they're being exposed to because they're highly targeted. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I think, people got to understand, like, the security stuff is not just, hey, it's nice to have. It's an essential cost of doing business now.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you will be out of business because that'll be the ultimate cost.
Yeah. It's not a
So,
matter of if, it's a matter of when.
yeah, I mean,
So,
I can't say I haven't seen one company. So put it this way, as somebody who is an ethical hacker, there's nothing that's bulletproof. I mean, the only bulletproof software is something that nobody's using anymore, and it's unplugged.
yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I guess the only thing that maybe could get close to that is some of these blockchains, but that's still in its infancy, and that's not part of this conversation here. But I love technology security.
Well, let's take that one on. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I love to kind of educate people a little bit on the blockchain stuff. That'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the Experience Economy, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.